Welcome to the Perspective Podcast, where we embrace open dialogue from different perspectives about entrepreneurship, relationships, and education.
And this open dialogue is needed, especially today, as we live in a Twitter finger society where everyone seems to care more about getting their point across than they are about hearing the other person's perspective.
If you're ready to grow your business, your relationships, and your personal development, stick with us here at the Perspective Podcast, because sometimes in life, to get to the next level, you just need a different perspective.
If I look like what I've been through, I'd be roadkill. Tell me off of the pavement, I'm reeking from the...
Oh, that's new.
That is new. What's up, guys?
This is like, cut.
The things that throw us off, right?
I was like, oh, that's new. Probably should have said that out loud.
I know. But anyway, we're here. Guys, welcome to another episode of the Perspective Podcast. I'm C. Mouzon. Got T here with me. What's up, T?
Nah, it's all business today. I was gonna give you a bang bang.
Give me the bang bang.
I was gonna give it to you, but nah, man, you can. It's all business today. It's all business today.
I was expecting it. I was expecting the bang bang, but I see you're at your new office. You got a friend.
Oh yeah.
You got a friend in the background, and I don't want it to get too hectic over there. So for those of you that are listening to us and not watching us, T's got a huge gorilla in the background. And he's got a choice company that we're actually going to start talking a little bit about today, but not just the company specifically, more so, how should I say this? The overtaking of how we're viewing these companies, and this company specifically, which he's, if you're not watching, it's AMC. That's what he has in his background. But on a high level, T and I were having this conversation, getting prepared to share this message with you and kind of share this perspective. And we really started to talk about the media and the media's influence over our lives. And the media is something that we all deal with, or that we all consume to some degree, right? Whether it be national media for like your CNNs and CNBCs and Fox Newses, whether it's that local type of media, whether it's your social media, doesn't really matter. The media has a huge influence and a huge role kind of controlling our thoughts. And some people may believe that, some people may not believe that. But T and I were having this conversation, and we saw.
If you don't believe it, you just don't. That's because you've been sucked into the matrix.
Exactly. Because you've been sucked far in, and you don't know how far deep you've gone into that. But it's such an important conversation because it's actually impacting many different areas of our lives, many different areas. Why T is in his new office at AMC is because, for those of you that haven't been paying attention in the financial world, specifically in the stock, right, market, AMC is one of these companies that people have been getting behind. And really, T, I'm gonna let you go into it because you're an employee you're an employee now.
I'm an owner, excuse me.
There we go.
Of an owner.
You're an owner now.
I'm an owner
of AMC. But let's talk about the media's role in why we're even talking about AMC. Because, by the way, you haven't gone to a movie theater for years.
I went right when they started breaking loose. I went to an AMC.
Gotcha.
They were the only ones open. So that's the only movie theater I've gone to since COVID. I went to see 2 different movies, but I went by myself.
Gotcha.
But I always go by myself, so it's whatever.
My wife and I, we haven't been to the movie theater probably since 2019, maybe 2018.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know, to be honest, I don't even know. For some of you that know, like we moved to the East Coast in 2018. I actually don't know that we've been to the movies since we've been here. Now that I
love, like, my first job was at a movie theater.
Wow.
Right, in Long Beach, Edward Cinemas, Long Beach Town Center. Like, shout out to Long Beach. And I got fired because I forgot to tell my manager I switched my schedule. But that's another conversation.
For another day.
Hey, but I love movie theaters. Actually, I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the podcast, but one of my goals in the future is to actually own movie theaters. Like that's like a thing for me. Now, whether that is that a viable business in the future, that's another conversation. But like one of my thoughts is if there is a way to viably do that, I would like to own movie theaters. I love movie theaters. I love the smell of popcorn. When you walk in, I love the energy. I love the entertainment. I love the little arcade centers. It's a weird fun fact. Most people I don't think know about me, but I love movie theaters. So this is like up my alley for more emotional reasons than it should be when it comes down to my money, but I don't care at this point. But I know it, and it's fun, right? And so everybody's like, what's going on? Like if you haven't been watching the news, Chris said, there is a huge situation right now going on with AMC. Many of you have probably heard about the situation that happened, the short squeeze that happened with GameStop back in January, right? Where a bunch of people, degenerates became millionaires messing around with GameStop. So if you don't know what's going on, the short, no point intended on it is this. Hedge funds, I don't say figured out a way, but for years have utilized a strategy. Some would call it almost illegal. Me and you as average people, we can't do it. It's illegal. However, they could do it, but that's another conversation for another day. They can't legally do it, but they do it in a way where their lawyers protect it, where they can go after what they would consider failing companies. All right, failing companies. So the way that you would do this is they would all collectively come together, not officially. And let me say this. I am not a financial planner. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving financial advice of any sense. This is just my opinion. Right? This is not financial advice. This is just me giving my perspective around the topics that go ahead and the facts that I know about. So let me start with that, right? Our lawyers like having a fit in the background somewhere. But essentially, if they collectively come together and go after a company, they're able to short a stock on a company. And simply what a short in the stock means is you borrow the stock from the brokerage house and you sell it back to the market, right? So you don't really own it, but you short it. You're saying, hey, I'm going to buy this back at a different day and time. So I'm going to borrow it. I don't actually own it. I'm going to borrow the stock and I'm going to sell it. So you're literally selling something you borrow. Yeah. Now the trick is that the price when you're ready to give it back to the brokerage house needs to be less. Right? It needs to be less than when you borrowed it. And then you're able to keep the difference because you sold it 10 and then you buy it back at 2. That's an $8 difference. You make the $8, right?
Let me give people the layman's term real quick because you're head on. But again, I know there's people listening that have no idea what you're talking about. So typically when you buy a stock, because most people understand what a stock is, right? Like you buy a stock, you're expecting for it to go up. You're expecting for the company to do better. That's why you buy it. You're like, oh, Apple, I think it's going to be doing better in the future, so I'm going to make money. Now, Correct. The other side of that, this is where they didn't teach us, and this is what T is saying, these big hedge funds, they bet the opposite. They say, not just I think that company's going to win, actually, I think this company's going to fail. And I think that the price is going to drop. And so I can make money, the hedge fund, the big guy institution, that's what it used to be. I can make money if that company fails. So if I buy it at a certain, right, or that's what T is explaining, if you get it at a certain price point, and then it goes down and you bet that it was going down, you still make money as if it like went up and you bet on the other side. Correct. And that is a game that most people don't understand how to play.
They don't understand.
Right.
Yes. Now you as an individual, make it clear, you can actually do what Chris has talked about, like shorting and everything else, right? Now, how they do it, there's like dark pools and all these other language, terms you're going to hear out there. We're not going to go into all of that because that's not the topic really today, right? But ultimately, you can, again, borrow, sell at $10. You hope it goes down to $2. Then you buy it back. You actually buy it officially at $2. You sold it $8, you buy it $2, that's an $8 profit. Boom. Now, the hedge funds have gotten so good at this, they actually make it where the company becomes insolvent. The company bankrupts. So once the company bankrupts, if you borrowed on it, you don't owe anything back. You never have to buy it back. So you literally keep 100% of the money that you collected on the front end. Sounds pretty genius, right? Well, the problem is they're attacking companies, and they started attacking the wrong companies. So back in January, this happened with GameStop. You had big hedge funds shorting GameStop. You had a group of people online, not on Facebook, which we'll talk about in a second, in Reddit posts and on Wall Street Bets. People probably heard of them, and they collectively came together. Hundreds of thousands and millions of people said, let's go and buy the shares so that when the hedge funds have to buy them back, the price is actually higher. Thus, they lose money. Also, every day, once they've borrowed the share, they actually are paying fees on the borrowed shares, like because they borrowed, they're paying their interest on it. So now what happens is, let's say you're a hedge fund, you borrow at $10, then you thought you were going to sell, buy it back in 30 days, but now the price is at $12. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Right? I sold at 10, but the price is 12. Well, guess what happens? That means I got to pay $2 more premium for something I only spent $10 on. So I lost $2, if you will. Now multiply this by billions and trillions of dollars. So what do the hedge funds do? They don't pay it back in 30 days. They just extend it. But if people keep buying the stock more and more and driving the price up, they extend it. So now the hedge funds are losing money every day. They've lost almost close to $7 billion with AMC and GameStop alone, or something crazy like that, just literally within months. And so now you have the same thing happening again, right? And so people were buying the stock with GameStop. Stock went from $6 to $500 because people were buying it and they lost billions. Melvin, the hedge fund Melvin Capital, if I believe the name is, but it's Melvin, I know for sure, I think it's Capital. Yep. They lost 50%. They lost 50% in January messing around with GameStop. 50% of their money they lost messing around with GameStop because people got tired of it. So now we come to AMC. The exact same thing is happening again. They tried to put AMC out of business. And the collective group of millions of Americans and Canadians and people around the world came together and said, we're going to drive that price up. So give you guys an example. I bought in under $10 when I first got in. The price is what, $50 now? It went up to $70 now. The projection, because they've shorted this stock so bad, and they've borrowed so much, they actually have borrowed more than the actual amount of shares that are available for the company. What that means is they are going to have to buy all the shares back between some analysts say 2 to 5 times over. Hundreds of millions of shares. There's over 400 plus million shares. They're going to have to buy back 2 to 5 times over. What is that going to do to the price? If everything goes according to plan, and there's a lot of manipulation, which we'll get into this now. If everything goes to plan, there is a mathematical equation that puts the share price of AMC at $100,000 a share. Now, that says no one ever sells. That's not going to happen, right? No one ever sells. Everybody buys shares and holds all the way until mathematically it can happen, but we're not robots that just hold and wait for numbers to hit. We are humans, and you start seeing 5, 10, 15, 20, $100,000 in your account, millions of dollars in your account that you can secure and sell off and early. I think a lot of people are going to do that. So the question is going to become, how many people hold on to it? So that's the backstory. That
is a great setup, and I think a great segue into the actual thing that you said is most people will not hold till it gets to that point because of their emotions.
Yes.
Because of them being high on the highs.
Yes.
Or if it happens to fluctuate low on the lows.
Yes.
But the big thing is the media's control over people's emotions.
There you go.
Control over people's information that they're getting, right?
Yes.
You guys, and this is why, we're having this conversation, because at the end of the day, when you get into the world of investing, when you get into the money world, the money business, right? Very much so an emotional business. Warren Buffett says, if you can't control your emotions, you can't control your money, right? Very, very basic. Most people struggle to control their emotions. Who knows this best? The media.
Yes.
The media knows it the best. So
they run their business on emotion.
Absolutely.
Their whole business model is based on our emotion.
Absolutely.
That's why 90% of the content on media, on our major networks, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, Fox News, it's negative because it triggers out emotions.
Yep. Not even just negative, fear-based.
Yes.
Fear-based.
Yes.
The media uses fear. They always have. They use fear to get the masses to do things.
Yes.
So let's take a look at all of the millions of people, like T just set up perfectly, all the millions of people that are now in this AMC stock.
Yes.
Because they read something, heard something, had a friend tell them. Not the technical analysis, not the people actually looking at the charts, not the people actually diving into the financials, not that side. The people that are taking information from third-party sources.
Yes.
That is influenced by the media.
100%. I mean, I just give you I'll say this about AMC so people know, right? Everything you're going to hear about the fundamentals, right? You hear that all the time, the fundamentals. This AMC is not a fundamental play. Just let everybody know that. AMC is not a fundamental play. AMC is not even a technical analysis play. This is literally someone has to buy within the next 45 to 60 days. And if enough people hold, they have to buy at a higher price. You get to dictate the price that they buy for. They're required by law, the hedge funds that have shorted, that have created what's called synthetic shares, meaning they can borrow. It's called naked shorting. So you can literally borrow something you don't have. It's not even real and actually sell it. And so now people are saying, well, when does it actually happen? Well, when the official share count happens at the end, well, quarterly, what say it again?
The quarterly shareholders meeting.
There you go, shareholders. I was trying to figure out the word. I'm saying meeting, the shareholders meeting. Mm-hmm. They actually officially count, and so they say, hey, all synthetic shares are null and void. Whatever is borrowed has to be bought back, and we officially have X amount of shares. Well, this is why the AMC play is so interesting. Well, right now, there's argument that there's 143% roughly of synthetic shares, like fake shares out there. So if most people actually hold the shares, and the shares that the hedge funds have to borrow are not, they have to buy it back by law. Even if they don't want to, they can't go to court and fight it like we did in the presidential election and stuff. Their brokerages automatically transact. If the brokerages don't have the money, the government comes in and has to foot the bill, essentially. Ultimately, that's kind of how it works, right? There's a government body that kind of, there's with the stock exchange, it's ATDC or something like that. But it's kind of like the FDIC for people, but it's for big brokerage houses and everything else. And they're insured up to $67 trillion. So that's half of the world economy. So they can cover $5 trillion, $6 trillion, but ultimately the hedge funds will have to buy back. Would it put them out of business? Some of them, yeah, right? Some of the smaller ones, yeah. Some of the bigger ones, they're going to take their lumps. They may have to readjust, but this is why AMC play is there for people like myself. Technical analysis, no. Fundamentals, no. And this is what the media, getting back to the media, they keep talking about just the fundamentals. They get on every single day and they're like, AMC is not worth this. Look. And people are like, and then people that are not actually going deeper into it to understand why this is happening are falling for it. I mean, look, I'm one right now and I just put in CNBC, CNBC, AMC. Just Google search it. Here goes the story. So tell me this ain't crazy. AMC is an amusing sideshow. As the calm bull market forges ahead, pulling in billions from investors. What is that insinuating? That AMC is just faking you guys out, retail investors, and they're just taking money from you, right? Because AMC is selling stocks as well to create cash flow for their business.
Because their business went down, which is the craziest part of the whole thing.
Yes. Like their business was actually on the verge of collapsing.
Exactly.
And if the hedge funds didn't try to profit off of it, it would have just died. Retail investors would have left it alone. AMC is the benefactor of retail investors that are savvier now and hedge funds who are profiting off of killing companies. They just tried to kill a company that was people were emotionally tied to, GameStop, AMC theaters. Like my first theater ever going to is AMC. I love AMC. Like, you know what I mean? If there was an AMC closer to me, I wouldn't even have my Regal. Like I have a Regal unlimited movie pass. I just told you, I want to have a movie theater, you know, like, so this is important. Like this is different for me, right?
For most, they have zero connection to AMC.
Zero connection. So they're running after it. So here goes more media, right? So I'm just literally top stories. AMC meme stocks could spark more heat in the weeks ahead as investors await inflation news. Investors aren't caring about inflation. Like the people this is it. Like this is going to stop somebody from like, oh, inflation news. It's been inflation news since COVID started. So there's like trillions of dollars from Trump and Biden hit everybody. We've been talking about inflation. Here goes my favorite one. Top headline. Forget AMC and GameStop. The hottest trades for hedge funds now is in the oil industry. The oil industry? What are we talking about here? Oil industry. So now think about this. This is like, guys, go. No, they're going after oil companies too. Get off of AMC and GameStop. So right here, literally, like you just go in, CNBC, AMC, hit search in Google. These are the top stories. They're telling you, forget about these. Why would they say that? Well, they're saying it's over. Oh, you know, the stock was $2. Now it's $50. You guys won. Congratulations. They haven't even bought the shares back yet.
I don't think, and again, this is why we're talking about, I don't think people understand how news gets disseminated, right? Like, I don't think people understand like how things happen. People sometimes take media, social media, actual media outlets as like truth.
Yes.
And like, that's the truth because I saw it written in a publication. It's like, no. Like, let's peel back those layers a bit.
Yeah.
So who controls that paper, that TV station, who has interest in that, right? So in this side of AMC, who has interest in allowing AMC to go bankrupt and who has interest in allowing AMC to not go bankrupt?
Chris, you asked some really good questions. So there's a hedge fund by the name of Citadel, and Citadel is heavily invested and connected to CNBC. Very heavily connected. So interesting. And typically Citadel before AMC has been, people have wagged their finger at them with CNBC about whatever plays they're doing, CNBC seems to love. And whatever they think are going against them, CNBC seems to not like. And we can even take this to the number one news disseminator of the planet, which is what? Facebook.
Facebook, social media in general.
Facebook, right? Facebook, right? It's one of the number one like news outlet where people get their news from, and it doesn't produce any news, right? Like Uber is the number one like taxi company in the planet, but they don't produce any like cars, right? Like Amazon's a retailer, but they started selling their own stuff now. But like these are mediums, you guys. Like, so think about this. So Facebook, right? Facebook shut down in January a Robinhood group who was predominantly talking about GameStop, shut down a group over 100,000 people for violation of some policies, which I don't even think they ever told. Then AMC starts pumping. It goes from like $2 to $15. The group gets to 25,000, the largest AMC group on Facebook gets to 25,000 people. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's joining the group like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Facebook shuts the group down. Facebook is becoming notorious for shutting down groups. Now, Citadel, think about this. Citadel is highly vested in Facebook.
What do you know?
Here now, Motley Fool, right? Like if you do any type of searching on stocks or anything, you probably see Motley Fool. Motley Fool this, Motley Fool that. Oh, we got 1,000% increase here. We're trading. Well, here goes something funny about Motley Fool. Zuckerberg's sister works at or sits on the board of Motley Fool. And guess who's been pretty negative towards it? Motley Fool. If you go and you look at the news outlets, right, that are producing the negative communication around this. And I'm not saying it's not justified, but think about why. Again, this is why I explained it. This is not a technical analysis play. This is not a fundamentals play. This is not saying that in the next month or so, when they do their official count in July, that that AMC is worth 3 times of Apple. Right. No, we're not saying that. Nobody's saying that. What we're saying is hedge funds for years have gone in, shorted stocks, crushed companies in ways and use tactics that me and you as retail investors cannot do. It's an unfair, I hate using the word fair, it's an unequitable, playing field, and it needs to adjust. And now people through social media, through the internet and different networking communities can come together collectively. In March, for example, AMC, in March, 80% of all the shares owned were 3.2 million individual shareholders within the United States and Canada alone. It doesn't include anything outside the United States and Canada. So if people just hold, but that's not what they're talking about. They're saying, oh, it's worth this or it's not worth that. Guys, you have to listen to what people are saying and why. Maybe there is some justification to this, right? But the news media, if you don't go, because Chris asked this question last night, like, well, where do people go to get their information, right? Like, do I listen to some random on Reddit or do I listen to this established billion-dollar news outlet?
It's like, where do we go today to get straightforward, truthful news that is not propagandized and not, doesn't have an agenda behind it? It's so tough to cut through. So again, for people that think that you're not being controlled by some form of media, you're just a little delusional about kind of what's happening, especially if you consume it. The people, the people that, and this is me, I don't consume much media from like the news outlets, the Fox, CNBCs. I actually don't consume any of that news whatsoever. Every once in a while, I'll see some CNN, CNBC stuff on Twitter or whatever the case is, and I'll take a article here and there. But in general, what I understand and what I know is that there is an agenda behind what you're being fed.
Yes.
As far as the masses, the United States of America, the middle class, however you want to look at it, the masses, you are being fed a narrative on lots of different things. We're starting to talk about stocks right now, but we can dive into narratives on many different things. One of the other things I was going to touch on.
What's our boy's name?
Yeah, Kwame Brown. If you haven't been paying attention.
Could I change my background to Kwame as the real MVP in the back?
You might want to, because again, we're hitting on these things and these are just themes that we're seeing.
Yes.
Right? We're seeing these themes come out, but Kwame Brown, if you weren't paying attention, this is probably 3 weeks ago now, maybe 2 weeks ago. Man, I don't even really know how it started. There was a little.
Gilbert Arenas went on the Up in Smoke podcast.
All the Smoke, yeah.
All the Smoke, excuse me. It's Up in Smoke now after Kwame. And took shots at him. And he was like, there was no need for you to even bring up my name.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, you want to say, I'm going to finally say something now.
And it seemed like a breaking point, right? Like it was a bunch of media attention right away because Kwame kind of went in, right? Like he kind of went in. He started calling Matt Barnes Becky with the good hair, right? He started really going in on people's lives. Like he was going in, and it was to a point that I remember I told you, I was like, I don't know if this is a mental health issue, because like this is so left field, out of character, just talking about all the things, or is like is he serious about this? Like, is this something true? And so after that died down a bit, he kept going.
Yeah.
Right. Kwame kept going, like, even to this day, probably as we're dropping this episode,
he's live right now.
He's live, right? He's going live every couple hours, but now he switched his tone to go more from attacking kind of, and maybe it was
individuals,
defending, but yeah, attacking or defending like individuals, to now talking about this conglomerate of what's actually happening. And he's made some points that says, like, he's talked about our boy Stephen A. Smith a bit. And he said, listen, right, you get up there and you get on stage and you get on these networks, and you actually have a reputation for talking bad about, right, black men. Like, in essence, yes, we might be accustomed to what sports debate now, right?
We are opinionated debate. Yes,
exactly. But again, when did we get to this point, right? Because it's so normal now, and this is where we got to pay attention to what we're being fed. And this is what Kwame is saying. He was like, when did it become okay, right, for you to get on national TV? He actually said this, I don't remember which one he said it, but he gave an example about, like, and this was Stephen A. Smith a while ago, talking about Jamarcus Russell, right? And how he was just lazy and he doesn't deserve a job, right? Because that's how we talk when we're in football, right? When you're talking football, he's lazy, he doesn't do anything, he's donuts, he's da-da-da-da. And Kwame was like, you calling this man out of his name on just because he plays a sport. Now, what if that man now needs to go, to a Mercury dealership and be like, hey, I'm Jamarcus Russell, right? Like, I love to promote whatever you're doing. And they pull up some tape of Stephen A. talking about, you're lazy, you're
what if he was trying to go get a job,
right?
Just a regular job.
You're taking food out of that man's mouth. Now, some people on the other side will be like, well, that's what he signed up for being a sports athlete. I get it. But now, what's the media's role?
Why?
Exactly. In either demeaning that person, is it like, and that's where we get to, like, so many people, especially now we're on the sports topic, they're talking and having opinions that affect people's lives. That affect people's lives.
After sports.
Yeah, after sports, during sports, right? Like, these are the things that it's coming from somewhere, because this is where that term clickbait and all that stuff comes from. It's because the media does things just for revenue sometimes. Forget the casualties, right? Forget the casualties of war. Oh, I just ruined that person's career. That reputation's out of there. There, right? We do this because we need more money. We need people to click on this article. We want people to watch Stephen A. Smith. We want you to talk about Skip, right?
Yeah. Like, and so as you say that, like, okay, so people say, well, okay, maybe you have an arrogant Stephen A. and an arrogant Skip Bayless, right? Because they're like the kingpins, right, of the industry, right? And that didn't play, right? Like, you have other people like Shannon Sharp, my boy, Club Shay Shay. I'm always at Club Shay Shay. You know what I mean? Like, he played. Even Max Kellerman didn't play. However, he was boxing, expert for years, right? Like, you know what I mean? So we like, okay, we kind of work with him. Other people have played. Marcellus Wiley, I don't care for him too much, but he played, right? Like, see Michael Irvin, of course, but Kwame was like, why do these guys come on here and why do you notice they pick on certain people? And one of his theory, I don't even want to say theories, one of his beliefs is, remember, Kwame Brown came straight out of high school. Right? He came straight out of high school. He was the first ever number one pick straight out of high school, if I'm not mistaken, right? Number one pick. I mean, LeBron did it, right? Like, I think LeBron and Kwame may be the only ones. I'm trying to remember. But Kwame was first. He made NBA history. Well, his argument is, when he didn't do so well, or there was an agenda for colleges to cut out high school players coming straight into the NBA. Because he's like, once you come out, you're the number one pick. How are you a bust? That's it. And he played 10 plus years in the NBA. I think he's played with 13 years. He goes, I was a number one pick and I stayed in the NBA making millions of dollars for 13 years. Most people don't even stay on their job for 3 years.
Exactly.
So he goes, how am I a bust at any point in time? right? Like, what, am I a bust to Michael Jordan? Okay, you could argue 95% of people play the NBA. Now let's include the planet for 30 years. Right. Of course, right? Like, there is no bust if you come to the NBA. He said the media agenda was to support getting people to stop making money straight out of high school, not even to get them to stop making money, to fund colleges, because this was going to become a trend. So you like just dog, so that then it can support new laws within the NBA.
So then they put in that rule. Oh, you got to go to college for a year.
You got to go to college for a year.
What?
You got to go to college for a year?
And now what? And now the G League and all these things, it's like, that is what he's saying. That is an agenda. We might think all of that is like, oh, that's what they did. And they had a league, and right. Yeah, it makes sense. Like, we want a child to make sure they go to college for a year, like get some development.
Can you graduate in a year?
No.
Can you get all your education in a year?
So like, where does that agenda come from? And people don't understand that. That's how it happens in the media. There are listen, my buddy Kabi talks about following the money. He's always like, follow the money. Where's the money, right? Like, you want to get to the answer, to the bottom of things, follow the money. So colleges, right? They are for profit. They are businesses.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden, and the money and the revenues they make from athletics.
Yeah, especially these phenom high school players.
From Division I sports, you take a Zion. We talked about Zion on the podcast, right? Like, and that was back in the debate. Should they get paid for their likeness, right? Like, should they get paid for their play, right? And this kind of goes into, well, should they get paid for it in college, or should they just be able to go straight to the league and just make money? Should they do a LeVar Ball and I'm taking my kids out of school and they're going to go overseas and they're going to be cool because they're going to come back and they're going to play in the league and we're going to make money. Right?
And he's doing well. Like, I mean, like the fact that LaMelo had a great year, right? Like it should show people that the narrative that is being pushed on the American people, even when it comes to sports, even when it comes to your child going to the next level and making money, like there's so many things in between where these, the NCAA, think about I was just watching the Rich Paul rule when they said that you gotta have a degree. You have to have a degree
to be an agent. Like, where does this come from? It comes from the powers that be, like the people that need the money, that they see the money flowing out.
Yes.
They're like, we got to figure out a way to get this money to flow back in. And the first thing that you can do is start to put that information into the media, right? Yes. Like, I remember they said, like, if a country ever gets taken over and there's a coup, like the first thing that they do is they control the media. It's
number one thing. Yes.
It's the first thing. They go in and they control the media. They shut down the radio stations, the TVs, because they have to control the information that is now getting put out.
Correct.
And if we don't believe we're living in a society where the information we're receiving is being controlled, then you're not paying attention. You're just not paying attention.
Some countries are going as far as even shutting down the internet to people so that you can't get your Reddit style community information going.
By the way, that's going to be the only stop. That's the only way to stop this.
That's truly the only way to stop it, right? Like in America, it can't work, right? Like, unless we just totally collapse, like there's always going to be your Reddits, but that's why people are, and then you have your Discords, right? Like I've started joining different Discords, right? Because you can't Google this information. You Google this information, like if you were a regular person hearing about your sister-in-law and they started making money with AMC, right? Or like my boy, like, I had a boy, these guys are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, like legit, like making money. And you go on Google, like, oh, what's going on? Here, what are you going to see? AMC means stop. Fear. Save your money. Fear. You're about to die. Everything's going to happen. They're going to take your kids. They're ripping you off. But then you go into private Discords where people are like, here goes the information, and here goes why we believe this can happen, and here goes the other side of the story. You're going to have to make a decision. This is something, when me and Chris are preparing for this, here goes the hard truth, everyone. Here goes the hard truth. We talked about AMC. We talked about Kwame Brown. Two completely different topics, but one common thing. The mainstream media says something totally different than what most people seem to be talking about, right? Like what's really going on right here, right? and here goes the hard truth that I hope people, because it's hard. You don't know what actually is true until time plays out.
Right.
Like even myself, like I got the background, I got the AMC, I got my monkey friend, my ape over here in the background, right? Like I get it. And it's all fun and games. I believe from my studies that this is a good play for the next 60 days, right? At max. And then I can put my money out, right? And maybe I'll leave some because there's some rewards now if you're a shareholder with AMC, right? Like there's some fun rewards, right? You get free popcorn and all this other stuff. But outside of that, it's kind of like you don't know until time passes. You don't know what's accurate or not. That's not to say everything that CNBC, Fox News, or CNN, whatever says is inaccurate. We're not saying that, I'm suggesting that it either. But what we are saying is you need to diversify. Just like you diversify with your money, you need to diversify the information, make a decision. You're going to have to make a decision for yourself. And then you're going to have to wait to see if even your decision was the right decision. Right. And that's the hard truth. There is no actual answer. For whatever reason, as people, not for whatever reasons, and we want to know. Like we want like, this is why like you can recommend a stock to somebody and be like, hey, I'm not a financial advisor, but I think this is good. And then the stock goes down and then they get mad at you.
Yep.
Like you told me about this, you owe me money. How owe you money, bro? Like I studied, I went through, I thought this was a good play. You just listened to me. So now you're putting all of the responsibility on me. And so what we're saying here is don't put that responsibility on us. Study it for yourself.
Or
there's
the media,
a lot of,
right?
Yeah.
Don't take stock in, for lack of a better term, right? Don't take stock in everything that like you read or everything that you hear. Cross-reference. There's a lot of like, this is what happens a lot. And we saw it happen in the elections, right?
Oh
like,
my God.
What happens is you get into a silo.
Yeah.
And this is also caused by the media, especially social media, because it's an algorithm. So it's just showing you more of what you want to see. But if you're, we talked about this a bit, like this is where I feel the downfall of people will be when it comes to this whole stock market, right? High emotion thing is because once you do start hitting it and making some money because you got a good tip or you understood like, oh, this AMC thing does make sense. You put money in there and then all of a sudden you do make $100,000 in 2 days, in 4 days, or whatever the case is. Then all of a sudden what starts to happen is you're in this silo of how can I find more? How can I see more?
Yeah. And how can I do this again?
How can I do this again? Now you're in this rabbit hole of like, I know this works because I saw it happen one time and now I'm going to stay here. You still have to be able to cross-reference that with a CNBC, with somebody that doesn't agree with it or gives you a different side. Doesn't mean you have to take that as truth, but you have to be able to say, well, this is one way someone thinks about it. This is another way someone thinks about it.
Why do two different people think about it different ways? Right. And sometimes what you realize is, well, maybe they actually don't think about it this way because somebody else just wants them to say that.
Exactly.
Anybody remember when Fox News had every single Fox anchor go on and say the exact same verbiage about a year or so ago, and they all had to open the same opening? So you telling me that the Ohio Fox News 12 and the Denver, Colorado Fox News 49 all opened up with the same exact language?
It's disseminated information, right? Like it comes from and that's what we just want you to understand, right? Again, we do this podcast to make sure we're having the necessary conversations.
Yes.
So you can learn that like, it's just about perspective. It's just about what you're seeing, how you see it, how you process it. There is no right, wrong, right? Like T said, the hard facts, the hard truth is like, you don't know what the truth is.
You don't know.
You really don't until you peel back, until like, this is what I've always said about politics in general, is I was like, you don't know these politicians until you sit down with them, you meet their family, you hang out with them, right? That's how you get to know a person.
And you know whether they could be, you start inherently knowing, like, could they be bought?
Right.
Like, because that's another thing, like, right? Like we have friends, right, that are married. Like I know I have some friends that are married, and it's kind of sad to say, but I know, like, if opportunity came and the right one walked across, like they not being faithful.
They would jump on that opportunity.
they not being faithful. Like I know. And then I have some friends where I'm like, bruh, it could be Rihanna, it could be Beyonce. They not doing nothing, right? Like, so do we ever get that close to these politicians to know when they get in the room with Citadels, the hedge funds, the Facebooks of the world, the Googles of the world, that's like, I'm going to
check. They slide that check across the table and be like, hey, I just need you to say, that's it.
That's it. Here goes the words for you. You don't even have to think. Just say these words and stop talking.
That's what happens behind closed doors, guys. And that's why we have to be so aware of the information that we take in and what we choose to take in as truth. Yeah. What we choose to take in as, man, I believe this. And again, if you're just getting it third party, if you're just hearing it from a friend, from a family member, like, please do research. Please keep going down the line. And, you know, of course, you don't want to go so far down the rabbit hole that you never make a decision. And you're just
make a decision.
Make a decision. You're going to be confused about things, right? Things aren't going to make sense. Listen, I'm in the financial space. You guys know that, right? Like, and teasing it, honestly, right? Like, so at the end of the day, you know that there's going to be news for something or against something. We have people that talk completely against cash value life insurance, and then there's people that are advocates for it. You have people that talk about mutual funds. You have people that, you know, go completely against them, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily matter who's right, who's wrong. What's your perspective? What's going to fit best for you? What philosophy makes sense to you?
Where are you trying to go?
Yeah.
Like, you said this last night when we were talking, like, where are you trying to go? What's your goal?
That's it. And that's it. And I don't think people are clear enough on that. That's why this media thing is so scary, because if you're not clear on where you want to be, you will be told where to go.
Whew. Oh man, there was a quote. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's a bar too.
That is a bar. You just hit a bar. So it was a quote essentially like, the people that are not brave enough to think for themselves will always be a slave to others that will think for them. It was like, I forgot who said it, but it was like, if you're not brave enough to go through, like, it's my CEO, who we're going to have on pretty soon. He always says people don't like to do the mental gymnastics necessary to become good. Right? People are not like willing to do the mental gymnastics. Like, it's hard work. Like I understand somebody was just probably thinking like, oh, Terell gave me information. And I came back and was like, I don't know if it's true or not. Like, like, hold up. Did you say you got the ape in the background? No, what I'm saying is, from my own due diligence, like, I listen to, like, I input different people. I have like 6 people I listen to that all say yes for different reasons. Right. Then I also have like people that are like, maybe this is why. Then I have people where it's like, no, right? And I process all of that, and then I come to my own conclusions based on where I want to go and what I want to do with my money. Yep. You have to do that. Right? You have to do that. If you don't, then you're going to end up, here goes the worst part about it. So, well, not the worst. This is also like, you can call it 1A, 1B. 1A is what you said, Chris. You actually make some money, then you get stuck in the gambling high of can it happen again? Then, or you also don't make money, don't get in, and now you're FOMO and fear of missing out every other little thing that you think could happen.
Yep. And those are the people that lose so much money.
They're the ones that really hurt. Like, they're the ones that really hurt. Yeah. Like, I give an example. I almost happened to me, right? So I bought some AMC shares, and I bought an option, right? Because I was like, it's like the options. I like options for different, for income, etc. Right? And my option went up 500%. And I was like, way past my marker, sold, right? I was like, sold, right? And I can give it a number. I bought like a cheap one. I bought a $100 option. Usually I can buy more, but whatever. I was like, you know what? This is kind of funky. I already bought a whole bunch of thousands of dollars of shares. I'm gonna buy one option, right? I was being cheap. My option went up to $500. Right? Boom, I sold it. I profited for it. That's 400% return. I'm like, come on, I can make $400 in a week, right? I was like, okay, cool. Do you not know that option that I sold at $500 went up to $4,500? Had I held 3 more days.
Wow.
So $4,000, $400. One side of me was like, Oh my God. Can I buy it again at $4,000 for the option? And if it goes to 100,000, then that option will be. And I was like, no. I look for 30, 40, 50, 60% on my option. I make 400%. 400%. I tripled what I normally look for, but most people will fall into that. Oh my God, I missed out on $4,000 extra dollars or $3,600 extra dollars.
Because that's all they're thinking about.
And that's all they're thinking about.
That's the mindset. And again,
they're mad. They're not mad. They're not mad at you. They're not happy anymore that they made 400%.
Right.
Come on, Chris. Like, we're in the world. You've been in longer than me. You make 400% of your money.
That is one of the best things, one of the best days in your life. Like, are you kidding me? It's like, but again, people are getting jaded because now in crypto, it's not. Right? Like, God. It's this, but again, this is a mindset. This is like where we're getting information, and what we're seeing is becoming the norm or the normal way of thinking. And we just have to be very, very cautious of where does this thought process come from? Is it being pumped into us? Is it being given to us for a certain? And let me just tell you guys, right, like, that are playing around. And I think we probably have more of this financial conversation with your CEO, right? Like, if we
the former investment banker on mergers and acquisitions. So
we'll probably
M&A guy. So he's like all about risk and analysis. And you saw that book I posted. Oh my God.
Yeah. So we'll probably have a little bit more of these types of conversations. But the thing is, right, we just have to know that you have to be in control of your emotions, of right, how you're thinking about things. When it comes to the money game, you got to make sure that you're emotionally ready. Like I was telling T, some people don't have the stomach to play in stocks. Some people don't have the stomach to do it because it is up and down. Like, if you don't understand what your plan is, right, what the goal is, it's very easy to lose your way. It's very easy to lose your way. And we just want you to be aware that the media has control when
mainstream media.
When you are,
you know what? Can we just throw Facebook in? Can we throw Facebook into mainstream media at this point?
Yes and no, because yes, I understand, because they are the powers that be too, right?
Because they just will shut a conversation down.
But I'll go the other side.
Okay.
Right? Like, the other side is the reason why it's not necessarily just mainstream media is because there's agendas for individuals on those platforms as well.
Right? The like, pump and dump guys. Yeah.
Exactly.
People have gone to jail recently over the past year for that stuff.
But it's real, because they know if it's happening from mainstream media, well, my little 100 people that follow me, or my 3,000 people, if I do that might help my pocket because I'm holding on to this, or I'm trying to pump and dump, right? Like,
So I'm not trying to make more apes. So, in the AMC world, we call it apes. So we're not doing this. So just so you guys know, if you buy the stock, great. If you don't buy the stock, that's fine. I just want to make sure, because people were like, oh, Terell's out here trying to get some more people off his platform. No, like, I just want to put that out there, because that's a good point. That's a really, really good point. Like, there's individuals, I mean, you see this in crypto all the time, where people create their own coins, rally all these people, sell them, and then
I got burned in the ICO bubble in 2017. That's all that it was, T. And I wasn't educated enough to really understand what was happening. But that's exactly what was going on. There was random people that were creating random coins, writing it all down, putting the white paper, getting their people to rally. This is going to be the next coin of the century, and it's going to change the face of medicine and healthcare and all these things. And you read it and it sounds amazing. And then you realize they were just trying to collect a bunch of money so they could get the hell out of there and leave. That's what started happening. And we have to be aware on both sides. Yeah, we have a huge disdain for mainstream media because you don't know where that's coming from, right? Like the higher ups. But then if you take your average ordinary person that's on social media, they may have an agenda too.
Yeah.
Don't put it past them just because you're getting information from because again, money, especially when you're dealing in the money world, follow the money, right? Yeah. Money is smart. There might be someone from a hedge fund that puts somebody in a Discord channel that 100%. Then starts to talk, and you have no
there's
idea.
Bots. There's real people and there's bots. Like, we just talk about the real people. Like, in there right now, like Patreon, right? Like, Patreon is a way for the average everyday guy or gal to get money, right? Like, oh, forget the mainstream media. They could be completely lying, right? and get enough people to follow, subscribe. They make money off YouTube. Go to Patreon, right? Then now you pay monthly to get like bogus information.
Yeah, people have.
It's just a good story that they sell.
People have agendas, and that's the key, right? We're not one side media, this side people, right? Like, no, this is where are you getting information, and are you able to actually discern what you're going to process and believe and take as your philosophy, as what you believe. That's really what it is. I don't care which side it comes from.
Nope.
You have to be able to do that, but you have to know that if you are getting information, people have agendas. Not everyone that gives you financial help or financial advice actually has your best interests.
No, they don't.
They just don't, right? Like, and so wherever, and that's the scary part of this whole thing, is because I think too many people are taking information from sources that they haven't checked, from due diligence they haven't done. And I think that's something we really have to pay attention to. So
I'll just say this as well. Give yourself grace too, because if you fall into something and you figure out, man, this wasn't it. Okay, that's fine. You had good intent of trying to get good information, and somebody was a great marketer or salesperson or both, and they got you in and it didn't work. That doesn't mean that what you were seeking is not something that is not a worthwhile goal, right? Like, I have a friend right now who's like, oh no, I don't invest anymore, man. I got burned in crypto. I'm not done. I'm done. I'm like, okay, you got burned. Okay, a lot of people got burned, right? Like, Chris, this was you for a while, right? But it takes time to heal, right? Understand what happened, go through the mental gymnastics necessary, and then go back in smarter, better, not in fear, but more with more information, more informed. This is what we're saying. It's okay. I've got duped into things. I've figured out, like, I've paid for courses that were crap. I've joined communities where you have to pay monthly. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, what did I do? Right? I had to ask for refunds back. Some money I didn't get back. Some money I did get back. But this is all a part of the process of learning and growing. And the problem is our brains naturally do not want to extend that energy to figure it out. That's why we like habits. That's why we work in rhythms. That's how algorithms know how to control us, because we like patterns and rhythms of the same, because we kind of can understand the outcome. When you start digging and doing mental gymnastics on stuff you don't understand, there is no foreseen outcome yet. And that's tiring. That burns energy. And naturally, our brain doesn't want to do that. We have to push that. So I will put that out there. So naturally, there's science behind this, and maybe we do a whole episode on this, like the science of the brain, right? Because me and you have kind of going down this path in our own rights. This is one thing about me and Chris. Like, we end up going like after like the same piece of information, but somehow we end up taking absolutely different roads to get there. It's kind of how this podcast started.
So true.
And then we're like, yeah, but I'm like, yeah, but this. And he's like, no, but yeah, but this. Like, we talk about our health journeys and stuff, like how the path that we're getting there. So this is a part of it. And are either one of us wrong? No. Are either one of us absolutely right? Probably not, right? But we're all still going, and we can come together, share information, and get better. And this is what we want today, right? We talk about AMC because it's a hot thing, it's a hot topic. It's easy to people to like, oh, he's talking about AMC, or they're talking about AMC, Kwame Brown. Oh, but really what we're saying is watch the narratives, watch the media, listen to what people are telling you from the media and individuals that have have an agenda. Study, do the mental gymnastics. I keep saying that because I wanted to register, to process, and make a decision for you and your family. Give yourself grace. If it doesn't work, keep it going. And if it does work, celebrate, be smart. If you make short-term money, go long after. Take somebody, go long, prepare for taxes, call Chris. He can help with that. Like, that was a promo for me, not Chris directly. Like, call Chris, right?
Man. It's a mindset.
We got CP on the taxes, right? When you need to do them, like, there's a lot of stuff a lot of resources that we can help out with. We just want you guys to be better. So that's all I gotta say.
That's it, and that's a great way to wrap this thing up, man. Like, we want you guys to get better. Again, the reason we do the podcast is so that you can understand there's no right or wrong. It's just about your perspective, but we want you to control what's up here. That's that mental gymnastics T's talking about. We want you to control what's going on in your mind. so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family. And then you will not be hurt if it didn't go the way that you thought it was going to go, because it was your actual decision. When you start taking information and just literally doing what other people are doing, and then you get hurt, naturally you will be mad at them.
Yes.
You will be mad that somebody told you that thing, or, oh, I got caught up in that. You'll be mad at them. You should be mad at you for not taking the time to actually go through and process. Is this something that I want to do? I believe in, I understand enough, all of those types of things. Always understand where you're getting your information. Where is it coming from? Is there an agenda? Could there be an agenda behind it? Could there be something, right? And once you start to learn and decipher what information makes sense to you, then you have your plan. Then as long as, like T said, you stay focused on the outcome, the goal, right? Where you're headed. Everyone's path is not the same. Everyone's plan is not the same. Everyone does not have to be in stocks. Let me just tell you that. Everyone, they're like, equities is one asset class out of 5, maybe 6 if we include cryptocurrency, but they're kind of figuring that out.
Soon to be,
right? Like, equities is one asset class. That means this is only one of the areas that you can make long-term money, short-term money, residual money. It's only one area. There are other areas, right? There's the cash side, there's the real estate side, there's the commodity side, there's the lending side, There's so much that you can do. So don't feel like you have to follow the masses, because it's the narrative being presented to you, because it's every headline, because it's everything that you see. You think that like that's the way everyone's going. It's not the case. So we just want you to think for yourself.
I'll use a phrase to wrap as you finish, because people like catch on, like, because we, like, we're kind of tracking stuff faster now, like generational wealth. Everybody keeps talking about, I want to try to create generational wealth with my my t-shirt business. Okay, great. That's one asset class, right? We talk about that. So there's multiple ways to create generational wealth. So for people out there, they're like, all right, that's what I want to do. And there's not just stocks. There's so many other things. Like I said, call Chris.
Yes, call me, because there's some things on that generational wealth side. We might have to have a whole episode on that, because people don't understand that it's easy to make money. It's hard to keep money.
Generational wealth is not solely made on how much money you make.
Exactly.
Generational wealth is how much money do your kids have?
And it's
like,
strategy.
and live off of.
It's strategy. People don't understand. You get to a level of actually wanting to create wealth for generations. You need strategy.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, I just ran up the numbers. No. You can run up the numbers and they can go back down. You realize that. That's not generational wealth. Generational wealth is having assets and things that continue to build, and that whole thing passes down and continues to build.
Yes.
That is how you build it. And again, this is why you can't necessarily do that in stocks, right? You can't just build, because eventually you're building someone else's company. That's what a stock is. You are owning someone else's business. So you have zero control. You're just putting some money into it. The generational wealth mindset, we've got to understand actually what we're saying. There's people that want to make money and be wealthy or be rich, and there's people that want to build generational wealth, and those habits are going to be a bit different. So
they're a little different. There's some crossover, but we'll you know what? That's an episode, because we'll mess around and extend this out another hour. So I can see it. I can see your energy level.
You see it going, right? I'm ready. That's how we go. You guys don't even know this on the podcast, but after we record this, we probably go for another 30 minutes sometimes. So either way, we'll cut it short right now. Again, hit us up. We want to hear your perspective. Shoot us a message, find us on social, because we want to hear what your thoughts are on this media, on this controlled mindset, on where we're getting information, on where this thing is even going. One day, will we be able to trust any news? Will we be able to trust anything? Right? So we have to have the conversation. We want to have the conversation with you. Until next week, guys, we're signing off for Perspective Podcast.
Bang, bang! Bang! All right, I feel better now. I feel better. I'm ready. All right, guys. We love y'all. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Perspective Podcast. We hope this conversation made you think a bit deeper, gain some insight, or even possibly even gain a brand new perspective. If you did enjoy it, do us a favor, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, Anchor, or anywhere else you stream. Leave a review to help more people experience these conversations and potentially change their perspective as well. And lastly, as always, T and I want you to connect with us. So follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You can find us just by using our names. And there we get a chance to hear your perspective. Until next time, God bless.